You grew up with the wrong story of Cinderella. The original is a documented nightmare of status-obsessed brutality, featuring blood-soaked footsteps, and blinding vengeance for the sake of a prince. Join me as I uncover the disturbing origins of this tale, straight from the source, the Brothers Grimm. In Disney's version of Cinderella, the Grand Duke travels the kingdom, knocking on doors, testing the slipper on every girl's foot. The stepsisters push, shove, whine, stomp, but no matter how hard they try, that glass slipper will not fit. The moment the slipper fits Cinderella's foot, everything becomes magical, simple, beautiful. We smile, we clap, we move on with our lives. But in the Brothers Grimm's version, the moment the Grand Duke arrives with the slipper is the moment the fairy tale shifts from a gentle lullaby to a nightmare you can't unsee. Because in that version, the stepmother is desperate for power, desperate to secure her family's place in the kingdom, desperate enough to do something unthinkable. When the slipper doesn't fit the first stepsister's foot, the stepmother takes a knife and she cuts off her daughter's toes. Let that sink in. She slices through her daughter's flesh, bandages the bleeding stump, and whispers to her, "When you're queen, you won't have to walk anyway." Imagine the pain. Imagine the fear in the stepsister's eyes. Imagine her trying to swallow the screams as she forces her mangled foot into that delicate glass slipper, while the blood soaks through the bandages. And it almost works. The prince, eager, sees the slipper on her foot, and for a moment, he believes he has found his bride. He lifts her onto his horse, and they ride off, the kingdom cheering, the stepmother smiling, victory almost in her hands. But the birds, who have been watching from the trees, begin to sing, "Rook-de-goo, rook-de-goo, there's blood in the shoe." The prince looks down and sees the blood pooling, dripping onto the horse's flank. Horrified, he realizes the truth. He turns around, bringing the stepsister back, throwing her off the horse. And the stepmother? She tries again. This time, with the second stepsister, she cuts off her heel to force the foot inside the slipper. Another daughter, another scream swallowed, another ride down the road. And once again, the birds sing, "Rook-de-goo, rook-de-goo, there's blood in the shoe." The prince sees the blood, sees the betrayal, and returns. Finally, Cinderella is allowed to try on the slipper, and it fits perfectly. No blood, no lies, no cut flesh, no pain. She is brought to the palace, dressed in a gown of gold and silver. The people bow, and she is crowned the prince's bride. And you would think this is where the darkness ends, but it doesn't. At Cinderella's wedding, as the stepsisters arrive, they try to win her favor, to pretend the past never happened, to claw their way back into her life, hoping she will forgive them now that she is queen. But the birds, those same watchful witnesses to all the bloodshed, fly down and peck out the sisters' eyes. Forever blind, the sisters are forced to wander the kingdom, stumbling in the darkness, reminders of their mother's ambition and their own cruelty. And the prince, he marries Cinderella, happily ever after. Pause for a moment. Is this the fairy tale you remember, or is it something else? Brutal lesson wrapped in the guise of fantasy, a mirror reflecting the greed, jealousy, and violence hidden within the human heart. These tales weren't originally told to soothe children to sleep. They were warnings, encoded in stories, reminding us of the consequences of envy, the price of ambition, the darkness that can grow inside us when we let it. They were meant to remind us that in the pursuit of power, people can become monsters. And maybe that's why Disney changed it, because they knew the world was already dark enough, and that sometimes a child needs a dream to cling to, not a nightmare to fear. But doesn't it make you wonder, what other stories are we living with that have hidden, darker truths buried beneath their polished surfaces? Sleeping Beauty was never kissed awake by a prince in the original tale. The Little Mermaid's real ending was a tragedy, not a happy dance on a wedding ship. Snow White's stepmother was forced to dance in red-hot iron shoes until she died. These aren't just stories. They are windows into the fears, desires, and brutal realities of the people who created them. And perhaps they reveal more about us than we would ever like to admit. Maybe the reason we love fairy tales so much is because we want to believe in a world where evil is punished, where good people win, and where love conquers all. But the truth is, these stories were never about guaranteed happy endings. They were about the struggle, the choices, the sacrifices people make, and the darkness they face on their way to the light. The darkness is part of the journey. And perhaps that's why the real Cinderella story matters more than the glittering version we saw on screens as children. Because it reminds us that sometimes the world is cruel, unfair, and soaked in blood. But it also reminds us that even in a world like that, hope can exist. That sometimes, no matter how hard others try to take what is yours, no matter how desperate they become, no matter what they do to twist the world around them, the truth can still win. The real Cinderella didn't have magic mice, a talking fairy godmother, or a perfect world. She had her kindness, her patience, and her courage. And in the end, it was those things, not the slipper, that made her the queen. So the next time you see a Disney princess twirling in a gown, glass slippers sparkling, remember the real story hidden beneath the glitter. Remember the blood in the shoe. Remember the price that was paid. And ask yourself, do you really want to know how your favorite fairy tales actually ended? Because if you do, you've just opened the door to a world far darker and far more fascinating than anything Disney would dare to show you. If this story shattered what you thought you knew about Cinderella, comment below with truth unlocked so I know you've seen the hidden side of this fairy tale. And if you want me to reveal the disturbing true endings of Sleeping Beauty, The Little Mermaid, and other Disney classics, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because what I'm about to uncover next will change the way you see your childhood forever. And remember, sometimes the stories we love most are hiding the truths we fear the most. Stay curious.